Hey friends, so we have the launch of the 1660 Ti coming out imminently, and if you take a look at Newegg or Amazon, you'll see that 1060s are drying up like my nose when I finally take some flu medication. And wait, that's a bad time to make an anti-vaxxer joke. Anyways, so we thought in the best interest of, the 1060 being replaced, finally, let's do a one last hurrah of comparing it to its long-standing rival, the 580, and the new kid on the block, the 590, and talk about which one you should buy, is it worth it, and especially with the latest games that have come out in the 2018-2019 region, we decided to do some more latest benchmarking. So let's go ahead and dive into all of that and talk about which one you should buy after I tell you that. This video is actually brought to you by our merch, my friends. We are bringing back some old classics. We got our Ray Trace t-shirt, we've got our It Just Works shirt, and not only that, we have it in pillow form, in hoodie form, in sweatshirt form, in mug form, and for your phone cases. So if you want to pick up either the It Just Works shirt or this sweater is Ray Trace, this hoodie is Ray Trace, this pillow is Ray Trace, whatever you want, get all the Ray Trace things. You can check out the link in the video description to pick up our new merch line. Most of it is just a previous idea, but you guys seem to love it so much that we're bringing it back. So check it out at the link in the video description. With that being said, let's dive into the history of the 1060. You see, my friends, this little 6 gig card, which is what we'll be comparing today, came out in the wee old ages of 2016. Was it 2016? Yes, it was. Holy crap. Anyways, has 6 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM, has a clock speed, at least when I tested this Galax EXOC version, of up to 1,924 megahertz with GPU Boost 3.0. It has everything that you could have possibly needed at the budget of around $250 to $300, depending on what type of deal you got. Wootware actually sent this to me ages ago, like I think a month after the 1060 launch. You'll see that we have a review of it. You can check it out right up there, where I hung it on a little door hanger thing because it has this little hanging thing like that. It's the perfect little decoration piece. Do I have anywhere to hang this? On the headphone stand? No. No. On the CPU? No. On the little power cable for this graphics. Sort of. All right. Well, the new office, compared to that old bedroom we filmed in, is not as hanging friendly for the 1060. But the 1060 has gone through several competitors. We had the RX 480, then we had the RX 580, and now, as of November, we have the RX 590. You see this 580 right here. This is the XFX Black Edition from XFX. We were also sent this one to me. Has replaceable fans, but it was also the fastest RX 580 you could get on the market. 8 gigabytes of VRAM, a clock speed of 1,430 megahertz. This thing was a gorgeous card at the time. You'll see we also reviewed this one right up there, and we determined that it was the best mining 580 because you could replace the fans and not have to worry about that, because the biggest thing that's going to fail on a graphics card that's mining is the fans. So good job XFX on this, besides the fact that it's just a hideous red color, and you can't change that. I mean, what is this, 2017? You need RGB. Then, finally, Wootware hooked us up. In case you didn't know, Wootware's actually sent us all of these graphics cards with the XFX RX 590 Fat Boy. So this thing has a clock speed of 1,580 megahertz. You can actually overclock it a little bit. The fastest I got it up to, I believe, was 1675, but that is not the testing we're doing today. So the testing, the comparison that's happening between all three of these cards is on 1080p, high settings, not hitting each other. I should probably not do that. And seeing which one comes out on top as the performance winner, especially in later games, because the 1060, when it initially came out, was benchmarked on a whole bunch of things, including GTA 5, which came out in 2015, so 2016 benchmarking GTA 5 totally made sense. Now that game can basically be run on a potato, it's more CPU bound than it is GPU bound, so we had to find a new suite of benchmarks to look at. So that's what we did. We have 11 games that we're comparing these three cards in, and let's go over here. Let's go here. Let's go over each one and see who comes out on top, and then talk about pricing, performance, and the value that you're going to get out of each one. So Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You see the 1060 did about 58, the RX 580 did about 56, and then the 590 did 60 even. 1080p, high settings, most of them do about 60, the RX 590 taking the win there. In Far Cry 5, it's the 590 that easily takes the win, but both AMD cards win on that one, but big surprise, Far Cry 5 is an AMD title. In Ghost Recon Wildlands, we see that, yeah, again, AMD beating the 1060, the 580 kind of being a little close to the 1060, but not by too much, you know, like 0.8 FPS. That's within a margin of error or so. Strange Brigade, this is a new one that we've added to our benchmarking suite. This is, I would call it an AMD title, especially since it runs on Vulkan. You'll see that the 1060, 86 FPS, but that RX 580, 105. That RX 590, 111. Bam! 1060 suck at Vulkan. But that's because, as it was the case when the cards came out, the 580 has a lot more compute performance than the 1060. Vulkan, with its low-level API, allows them to perform a little bit faster. Hitman 2, this is a new one. We got 77 FPS on the 1060, 84 on the 580, and 89 on the 590. Then we come to the first, I guess I would call true NVIDIA title here, is Final Fantasy 15, where, yeah, no, the 580 and 590 both handedly lose to the 1060, thanks to Hairworks and the like. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, again, AMD taking the home crown. Shadow of War, yeah, no, the 1060 sucks here too. Metro Last Light, hey, 1060 wins there. Witcher 3, hey, 1060 wins there. Resident Evil 2, ooh, look at that, AMD goodness. So a mixture of titles, AMD and NVIDIA preferences alike, and it seems like for the most part, the 1060 can win in some games, but only if NVIDIA's really worked on the game with the developers and made sure that they implemented all of their GIMP works to make sure that we slow down everything that's happening here on Team Red. But at the current price, if we look at it, you can probably, the average price I'm seeing for a new 1060 out on the market is about $230, $220, somewhere in that region. You can find a 1060 for about $199, and that's one of these Zotac amp models. So you could pick that up. But then if we look at the price of the RX 580 out on the market, most of them are actually sub $200, $180, $190 for an RX 580, even one of the XFX versions, not the black edition, but one of the similar shroud designs as the Fat Boy. I think they called them GTS back in the day. Anyways, $190 for 480, and you're getting pretty good performance in most games there. And then the 590 coming in with its average price of $250, $260 is the most expensive of the bunch. It obviously performed the fastest in all of the benchmarks, but when you take a look at cost to performance analysis, the 1060 and the 590 are actually pretty even. The faster performance of the 590 in most games, included with the extra price, means that they're of similar value. It actually is the RX 580 that comes out as the best value card that you could probably get for 1080p gaming right now, just because, holy crap, that price is delicious. Not to mention the fact that there are some game bundles that you are going to get with these cards. With the 1060, you get a Fortnite stuff. Cool, I'm not a child. Whew, that almost fell off. That was close. With the RX 580 and the RX 590, you actually can get several actually good games. Let's talk about those. So with the 590, you get all three games that AMD has in a bundle, which would be Devil May Cry 5, the Division 2, as well as Resident Evil 2. All of them, if you value them at $50 each, that's a $150 bonus that you get with this. With the RX 580, you get to choose two of those three titles, considering the Division 2 is probably just going to be the Division but newer with more bugs, and you probably just will either go back to playing the Division or Rainbow Six Siege for that matter. It's not really all that tempting, so just picking up Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 2 is what I would do. I don't even need the Division 2. Obviously, your preferences might change based on that, but $100 of game bundles for two games that I'll actually play versus $150 of game bundles with two games that I'll actually play. I think the RX 580 handedly wins there. Obviously, if you want all three games, spending an extra $60 to get the RX 590 will get you better performance and get you that extra game, but that's the cost of just buying the game itself. So it's a weird little rigmarole that you have to do right now. And specifically speaking of South African pricing, because we're here in South Africa, if we take a look at the pricing to performance yet again, the 580 just comes out on top, only costing 3,600 Rand compared to the 590s, 4,200 Rand. Again, you can include all of the games in that. And then the 1060 is going for about 4,000 Rand. The 1060 is just the worst value out of all of them. Whereas in the US, the 1060 or the 590 is about the same value. Here, the 1060 is the much worse value, especially once you add in the game bundles on top of it. But just sheer price to performance, the 580 once again comes out on winning. Good job, Brett. Words of greatness. But that pricing for that 590 Fat Boy on Wootware's website for 4,200 Rand is pretty phenomenal. So if you are looking for a 590 in South Africa, it's probably the one that you should pick up. But I can say pretty definitively, as of early 2019, the GTX 1060 has kind of fallen out of favor. Part of that is probably because NVIDIA is pulling them off the shelves in anticipation of the 1660 Ti launching in about, was that 16 days or so? 9 days if you listen to some sources. So obviously they wouldn't be selling these out on the market. Then when it comes to used cards, you're probably gonna have an easier time finding used 580s since they were the hot item for mining over a year ago. And so I would take that most used pricing on the 580 is gonna be better than most used pricing on the 1060, and therefore it also would be a better value. But also consider that 1060s were used for mining as well, so it's gonna be a bit of both on both ends. So, conclusion, definitively, right now, I can say without a doubt, the RX 580 8 gig, even 4 gig, you're not really gonna be using more than 4 gigabytes of VRAM at 1080p. Fortunately, with the RX 580, getting lesser VRAM doesn't slow the card's core performance down, whereas if you got the 1063 gig, it would actually slow the core performance down. But yeah, 580 wins this matchup completely, whole-handedly, especially with the pricing that's going on right now, especially with the value that AMD is adding with those game bundles. I see no reason not to pick this one up if you're looking for really good 1080p performance in the next couple of weeks. The 1660 Ti is obviously rumored to launch at $280 with the performance of around a GTX 1070, which could then change this entire conversation completely. But for right now, for the next 2 weeks, this is our solid 1080p winner, and I can't think of a reason not to use this card at all, even though it does suck more power. That doesn't really factor into my analysis at all, because you're what, gonna spend a couple dollars more per year? That's not really relevant for me. And then obviously there was the discussion back when we used to do 1060 versus 580 videos about the whole FreeSync versus G-Sync debate. But now that, you know, NVIDIA cards can use FreeSync, that's kind of null and void. So they can't use it over HDMI. So if you only have an HDMI cable for whatever reason, since you're still living in 2016, then picking up the AMD card would also work. That's a joke, by the way. I'm not necessarily knocking people for using HDMI. It's a perfectly relevant standard. Jeez, don't get on. Shut up, Reece. HDMI 2.0 is okay. HDMI 2.0 and 2.1, those are fine. 2.1 obviously is better, but DisplayPort is just the de facto winner. Anyways, why are we on this topic? I'm Brett with the, that's a bad transition. Let me stand up again. So let me know what you think of the comparison. Let me know what you think you would actually pick up right now. Obviously, most of you have had these cards for ages, so you're just stuck in your ways about it, and you might want to justify your decision down in those comments down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And before we exit, let me go ahead and tell you about today's video sponsor. Don't forget that today's video is brought to you by our merch. If you want the either It Just Works shirt or this shirt is ray traced, check it out at the description. Buy the stuff, please. We try to price it as cheaply as possible so we can make a little bit of profit, but nothing too big, and we make sure that the world goes around with, we get more stuff and you get more good shirts. Bye. So, like the button, hit the like button, get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content, including out-of-date, irrelevant comparisons of cards that are soon to be obsolete. We try to do those as soon as it's relevant in the hot commodity market of GPU restructuring.
Words.
Yeah, bye. I'm Brett. I love your smiling faces, guy. Hey, dude, cheers.